Kicking my wife's mother out because she gave her inheritance away. This story came November 4th, 2025. People in the story. Me, 32, wife, 30, brother/brother-in-law, 27, and mother-in-law, late 50s. My father-in-law recently passed and left a very sizable life insurance policy to his son and wife, mother-in-law. My wife received nothing. We understood this because her brother is not the brightest and still lives at home. He never goes out and only goes to work and back home to play video games all day. They both recently moved into our home as they were too distraught to continue living in the home that my father-in-law passed away in. My father-in-law was truly the only adult in the home and responsible for taking care of everything. He even drove my mother-in-law to and from work on a daily basis, a responsibility that has now been passed on to my wife. I have since taken over the estate planning, such as paying bills, swapping over policies, etc. My mother-in-law doesn't speak English and doesn't drive, so as a family, it was my pleasure to take on this responsibility. After a month and a half, I finally settled all the bills and funeral planning, etc., and all the heavy lifting was complete. I do not say it lightly, but without me, the family would be lost on what to do. For example, they did not even know where he worked, and they were surprised to find out he even had a life insurance policy. Both do not have any retirement plans or savings. I suggested a shared bank account for my wife and her mom to put the payout into, where it will accrue interest, but also to pay off bills every month. Mother-in-law had no bank account before. It was at this point that mother-in-law says that she would rather not have her daughter on the account and wants to give her portion of the payout to her son and have him set up with a savings account. She says this because since me and my wife have a home, that it would be better used on her brother. We do have a home, but we are by no means rich. In fact, moving in would help us out financially as there would be extra income from them paying rent. I expressed to my wife that leaving everything to him would be incredibly irresponsible because then he will be left the family home and the payout, but mainly because he cannot do anything for himself and cannot be trusted with the money. I say this because of things I've learned about him. He does not have a driver's license, but drives a car to and from work. Oh, illegal. Never helped with the estate, and something I learned was that he has a large amount of cash in his checking account. He has never had a girlfriend, and since then, he has shown no signs of ever wanting to move out. The large bank balance worried me because when I asked him about this, he told me he just had no idea what to do with it and has no concept of retirement planning since his parents took care of all the bills and all he did was pay for some of the mortgage, go to work, then go home to just play video games. My wife was also there when her mom had breast cancer and took her to and from every single appointment to the point of using all her vacation and sick days to help during this time. Her brother is not a bad guy. In fact, he's actually a great friend, but he doesn't ever seem like he will grow up to be a responsible person. I told my wife that after agreeing to take them in and have them live with us, that it would be a slap in the face to be left with nothing. So I told her that her mother and brother should move back to their home and use the money from the payout to help them live in the absence of my father-in-law. She was then furious with me and said that all I care about is money, even though I feel like this is not so much about money, but that there is a complete lack of respect with being shown nothing for all the help we have and will be giving. So Reddit, am I the a-hole?
We got a snooty bean. We got a snooty bean.
Boo boo, everyone thinks it's crazy when you're actually not sleeping in a video. They don't believe me that you're crazy.
Because all you do in a Joss cam is sleepies.
She's nuts.
She's so funny.
This is interesting. And then he added an edit to the same post. I would like to add that their plan for the family home would be to rent it out. They purchased it before interest rates went up a few years back and would be set to make $1,000 cash profit every month from it. A lot of people are asking, so I will clear it up. We didn't even know about any life insurance policy when we took them in. It was only after very extensive digging through his records that I found out there was such a policy. I would also like to add that my wife thinks this isn't the right move to leave them to fend for themselves because her brother and her mom are not able to communicate effectively if needed. She only speaks Spanish and he only speaks English, but does not understand Spanish and can say simple words like yes or no in Spanish. So he would be unable to have in-depth conversation without any planning. This is where I have been serving as a bridge, although without any input from the brother, as he has not been involved with any planning, as it just doesn't seem very important to him. My mother-in-law and brother-in-law did plan on renting out. Me and the wife have spoken early on and decided it would be best to let them have a couple months of not paying rent here, mainly because they would still be paying their mortgage on their home, and paying rent for staying with us would be a great financial burden. This was also before any mention of life insurance payout, and even with the payout was still something I honored, as it would likely take a couple months to rent out their home. I would also like to add, if you are hung up on believing that they can't communicate, they can. She speaks her mind to him and he listens. He nods and replies back to her in short phrases, but he is unable to fully communicate effectively with her. It seems his sister was always the mouthpiece for him growing up. Can we have an undiagnosed learning disability? Highly likely, but I do not fault him for not knowing Spanish. Seems to me like there's a lot to consider here, and I'm very curious what you guys are thinking as of now, but I do want to know what people of Reddit are saying. Someone commented and said, "You are personally the safety for your wife. They left her out because they were counting on you. You are the one being used in this scenario. If you don't exist, your wife would have gotten a share. You are an ATM." Oh, interesting. I never really thought of that. If she was single and living with them, yeah, she probably would have got a piece. Next comment, not the a-hole. You do realize that mother-in-law's retirement plan probably will be your wife and you taking care of her? Maybe. Next comment, don't forget they will also be expected to provide care for the brother for the rest of his life. Perhaps he at least can be guided towards independence. OP and wife need to talk things out so they can present a unified front to mother-in-law if OP wants anything to change. A family therapist may be able to help them communicate since it sounds like they want what's best for everyone. That's true. Maybe an outside perspective, some counseling. Next comment, yes, exactly what I was thinking. I firmly believe that her plan is to stay until she passes away. She knows she has manipulated and conditioned your wife so much to the point of putting her own needs behind her in order to cater to mom and especially the brother. She is probably confident that she has ensured her son will never need to live alone and never need to actually grow up. Because she knows even if hubby wants brother out, wife has been conditioned too deeply to go against something her mother would clearly be wanting. Yeah. How long are they moving in for? Has that been discussed? Was this a long-term plan? Did you welcome them in for the plan to be the rest of their lives? We have an update and it came 5 months later. We are now in very recent times, March 19th, 2026. Sadly, this update is not entirely a happy one. What has happened since? My wife and I have single-handedly helped renovate and restore my mother-in-law's home and rented it out on her behalf. Many, many months of hard work, all with very little, if any, compensation. Again, I would like to stress I didn't expect anything. I truly just did want to help. For my 3 to 4 months of renovating and finding tenants for the home and hiring contractors paid by mother-in-law, we were given about $500 for our efforts. It's something, and again, I wasn't expecting anything for this service. During this time, my wife kept expressing to her mom that this is something her son needs to be doing, as it would be the house that they both go back to. Okay, so not forever plan. They plan on renting it out, but going back maybe once they're healed from obviously the trauma that they just went through. She would then go on to talk to her son about it, and he would reply with something along the lines of, well, no one told me to do it. There is much, much more I've done for them, but I don't want to bore you with all the details. During the time since my original post, my mother-in-law and brother-in-law have been paying rent to stay with us. Another small win. Brother-in-law now takes his mom to work. Does he have a license yet? My wife comes home earlier and not so grumpy from the long drive, and we actually get to see each other more often again. Our original conclusion was to have brother-in-law return his portion of the inheritance to his mother, who I again would like to mention had practically zero retirement savings, as this would help her make her mortgage payment and live comfortable in her more senior years. Apparently, this did not happen. Mother-in-law did decide to keep her portion, but brother-in-law kept his share as well. My wife received nothing. To make things more annoying, his share sits in a checking account earning no interest. As I mentioned in my previous post, had we known that he would decide to keep it, we would have suggested they move back home, or even him to go back home, since we are happy taking care of mother-in-law now that she is fair to her daughter. But now, as there are tenants on their home on a 12-month lease, we are now stuck. Although we are happy we are getting some rent, as my mother-in-law says, we are getting some inheritance that way. Because of the rent being paid, I continue to help them out with paperwork and getting their life in order, as I felt less used this way. Many will say, why would I care if he kept his inheritance? Well, it's because we continue to do everything and spend our time doing things. Meanwhile, a man whose net worth is nearly 10 times ours gets to live stress-free playing PS5 all day. Not only that, but I've said before, he has no concept of planning for the future or financial literacy. We're gonna continue on with the story, but I need a sip of water, and so do you. It's hydration station. Cheers. There's a lot of rumbling, and they are doing carpet cleaning in my building, so I'm wondering if it's that. In case you guys missed when I shared what teeth whitening stuff I used, I have mentioned this before because some of you guys have asked. I used to use Crest White strips like all the time, but obviously those can be very harsh on your teeth. They can wear away some enamel? Is that the word? Anyways, not great necessarily for your teeth with all the bleach and stuff. I switched last year to these natural ones. You can get them on Amazon. They're made with coconut oil. So they're all natural ingredients. There's no harsh chemicals at all. And I actually find they do the same amount of whitening, like same results. I actually might prefer these. I see whitening pretty fast with these. Anyways, they're very natural. This is the brand. They're on Amazon. I usually wait till they go on sale. They're around $45 Canadian. So I don't know, but they often go on sale. So even just keep your eye out. Hope it helps. I've been dealing with all the stress with no reward when it should be the son having to take charge. My wife has gone directly to her brother to ask for a share of the inheritance, not even a split down the middle, but asking for whatever her brother believes to be fair. She expressed to him that we have both bent over backwards doing everything that he should have been doing. Every time she approaches him, he just says no. One thing to note, even if we told him to do these things, they would never get done, and it was not a viable option to wait for him to grow up and take charge of fixing up the house, as my mother-in-law was losing money every month that it remained unoccupied. She has mentioned to me through talks with her mom that they believe her father left him that money with the thought that it would be used for him to not only share with his sister, but to help him take care of his mom in their home. A sort of test of manhood to see if he was capable of doing the right thing, which is why my wife has asked for whatever seems fair to him. My mother-in-law has gone from thinking her son deserves it all to hoping that he would emulate his father and do what he thinks his dad would have done and grow up for the sake of his mom. She has cried many tears with us, expressing how even I have been more of a son to her than her own biological son. I forgot to mention, because of my father-in-law's passing, my mother-in-law is able to add her son and daughter to the mortgage. Another happy ending for my wife, as she will also have a share in in the home. These changes from my mother-in-law's way of thinking happened over time, with us expressing that American values are different from the values of traditional Mexican culture, where she now believes her daughter to have the same standing as her son and not just a woman meant to serve man. Hell, it's funny because she even saw this after living with us and seeing how my wife wears the pants in our relationship. My wife is also on the title. Overall, my wife is in a better place now with her mom, and so am I. But sadly, her relationship with her brother has not gone well. I have saved the worst part of the update for last, as it will make all of Reddit angry. What? Ugh, I'm trying to think of what's gonna piss me off. If you guys gave brother-in-law money. I don't think he needs it. Sadly, my brother-in-law has not grown up during this time. He still does not have a license or insurance. So you're letting him drive mother-in-law every day without a license? That's just crazy to me. And as of last week, we have found out the registration has expired because of this as well. I have tried, but he is a stone who cannot be moved. We have all tried to tell him to do this, but nothing happens. This is why I had said previously that it is not a good idea for him to have the inheritance. He simply is just not responsible. I have told my mother-in-law to please not let him ask family members to register the car for him under their name, as this will only enable him, and she has agreed. He will not be babied any longer. I have sat him down and told him the severe consequences that will occur if he is ever confronted by law enforcement. Up until this point, I continued helping make all payments, medical arrangements, paperwork, and document arrangements for them. Finding the letter stating his registration has expired was the final nail, and we told him that we would no longer help him. He has sometimes helped clean the house during the renovation process after we told him to, but other than that has not lifted a finger aside from taking his mom to and from work. He has the time and financial means, and I told him he must grow up and take charge of everything. Me and my wife would no longer be used, and we would only help if there was something truly important that he doesn't understand. My mother-in-law also agrees with this, although she thought it was mean of us. She understands that maybe tough love is the only way to get through to him. I have done my best and will continue trying, but there is only so much stress a person can handle. If anyone has any advice or feedback, please feel free to reply. I'm writing this update because my first post really did help us out, and I'm hoping this one can do the same. I'm stressed. I'm stressed about your household, and I am not even in it. Let's see what people on Reddit are saying, because he said that they were going to be angry. So, someone commented and said, unless mother-in-law passes all of the inheritance to brother-in-law and then passes away before the mortgage is paid off, then brother-in-law can just choose not to pay. Your wife needs therapy to stop being the whipping boy for these people. You need therapy to help realize how bad the situation is and learn how to set healthy, loving boundaries. You should seriously evict your brother-in-law. Please do not point out that there are tenants in the house that he used to live in. He has a job and an inheritance. Let him rent his own place. Yeah, I'm not really understanding why that's not an option. I'm thinking it's simply because he doesn't even know how to pay bills. So how would he even pay his own rent? Clearly. Insane. OP responded to that comment and said, she's also on her bank account now, so she has access to her mom's funds. So even if he chooses not to pay, she can pay it with those funds. My wife has definitely stood up for herself since my first post. The reason for this post is not just to provide an update, but to see what reasonable options there are that we haven't thought of. I do like the idea of telling him to find a place to live. Well, it'll force him to grow up. He won't have a place to live if he doesn't pay the rent. He'll literally be homeless. So pay your bills, figure it out.
I mean, grow up.
Next comment. But when mother-in-law passes away, whatever is in mother-in-law's bank account, it will go to settle mother-in-law's debts, and whatever is left will be split between her children. And then the account will need to be closed. You can't keep operating a deceased person's bank account. That's a type of identity fraud. And then ownership of her house will be split between your wife and her brother. Your wife is going to be shafted by this. Honestly, that's just a lot of things that I can't fully comprehend. I rent a condo and an apartment. Only have ever done those things. Never owned a house or a mortgage. I don't really know how any of that works.
It's just a baby.
I've been renting since I was 17 years old. That's all I know. But you know what? I know the tenant rules by hand nowadays. Got it all in the bag. I don't know if that's worth bragging about by any means. I've just been renting for a really long time. Next comment. Mother-in-law is able to add her son and daughter to the mortgage. The mortgage or the deed? The mortgage is a liability, meaning you have to pay. It does not grant you any ownership. OP responded and said, yes, added to both. But with mother-in-law's inheritance, there is practically no fear of default. Again, not totally sure I know what that means. Next comment. Brother-in-law has a job and an inheritance. Kick him out. He can get an apartment and live on his own. I feel like that's probably majority of the comments. Maybe that's your comment as well. Let me know. I think that would be a great option to force some responsibility, to grow up. You can keep taking care of mother-in-law. We can assess things as it goes. I don't know. But then if brother-in-law moves out on his own, someone's gonna have to take back the role of driving mother-in-law to and from work. Although brother-in-law doesn't have a license and should absolutely not be driving anyway. But this is a whole mess, an absolute mess. Let me know your thoughts and feelings. Stay classy out there, stay sassy. I'll see you tomorrow.